I'm Seamless, and today I'm going to show you how I hooked up all this pad soundy stuff with this visual that's happening right here with it. As you can see, it's already getting kind of out of whack. You can kind of see the mask beneath the button. It's not supposed to be beneath the button, it's supposed to be on the button. But the reason why that's happening is because I don't have the camera somewhere stable. And when you see the process of how this went through, you'll understand why that's basically fatal. So let's go through that. Right here is the whole visual. So just to go over the sound stuff, what's going on here is there is a superior drummer. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna, well, bam. Yeah. Did I put you in here? I did. All right. So I'm using the current FL beta, which one of the cool things it does is it lets you have actually exploded out the flow graph view, so that I don't have to like completely ruin myself with specific problems of being able to just crunch everything in one window, and that really limits complexity to some stuff you want to be doing. In this case, all of that I'm really doing is a lot of like MIDI shenanigans to try and communicate velocity changes to play different articulations. So normally, like in the previous video you saw with the pads, the two pads, and I that was kind of okay, except for the fact that the main machine's pads are so much more velocity sensitive that I can't be used to playing them and not them. It's real weird. But what that means is that now, okay, I have less pads to work with, but I still want to play a lot of articulations. So for example, I have 4 articulations here. And they're just listed, like this is the loudest, second loudest, third loudest, fourth loudest, and then they all have various weightings, and that's what that's everything in here is for. This is all just MIDI transformation to get velocity to be different articulations. After doing that and just doing some compression, I just not hooked up to anything because I was really not really gonna make a song out of this. I was kind of trying to. I was gonna come up with some articulate like accompaniment or something, but this was really hard. This took a lot of doing, and like what you're seeing me do now is like the third one, and even that wasn't even that wonderful, which is a big reason why I just decided to show this one and then move on. So what's going on is that there's a pad here that's linked to every single individual specific pad by way of the note. In the machine, the default way that those are sort of like MPC paddy kind of situations are laid out is that it's the MIDI channel, and then the next pad is a new MIDI channel. Because it's thought of, like you can imagine, they actually is basically like this. Like it's the channel rack of itself, and every one of them can be a potential sound loaded in there. And then within them, you can do some stuff. And that's basically what it's like, but you can make it not do that. You can just set them all to the same channel on different notes, and that's just how I did that here. And every one of these is linked to their specific one. And they're all different because they put out specific named articulations. So you can just look at them in the list. Boop, there they all are. The first one controls how visible the lava layers are. So let's talk about the lava layers. So now that we're getting into that, what all those are for, there's 4 controllers. I'm only using 3 per, but they all have to be different and individual. And then all of these layers also have to be different and individual. So let's work backwards into what we're looking at here to kind of make sense of this. So the last couple of things that happen are some of the most important. In order to get this to look right in the visual, where like it's kind of on top of stuff and like but related, and not just added together where you would see it and then guaranteed whatever was beneath it. In this case, you can't really see what's beneath it. And the reason why that's happening is because right before that layer comes in, it's being subtracted from the primary layer, creating a hole of nothingness. So that when you do add it together, but in this case I'm using the lighten mode, it does it without interference from the original layer. Exactly where it is, exactly only where it is, because it's being influenced by the same source. So that's what you're really using the subtract modes for these circumstances, when you want to blend together multiple things but have them look like they're actually there and not just both of them represented with a higher value where there's a higher value or whatever. That's really what just added it does most of the time. This original input is just the webcam. This is just happening live. It's right there, which is a big reason why this one was cool. So then there's this, and then this is the combined layer that this is being served from, and it's essentially all of the pads at once. But every one of these pads is an individual thing that has to happen. And this last big, huge, long line of thing here is basically just 16 layers. In regular visual editor software, there would just be a layers tab, and there would just be all these on a layer, and that this kind of thing wouldn't be necessary. But this is not really made for this stuff I'm doing with it. I really am not throwing shade at the image line devs for, not being a visual editing software, because it's just not their intention. But just because I figured out I could do this by doing this unnecessary amount of work. But yeah, so you do that and you specify the pads, like individual outputs, which I labeled, which is why they're able to come out here and have like specific, because oh boy, otherwise you're just at the mercy of whatever the auto naming is. And they're unique and identifiable, but you get lost if you're not just meh. Meanwhile, what those all are, this is essentially the last top output of those layers, but those layers are all here. Now, these alternating colors kind of represent the layers, because what's happening is that there's a lava layers. See, there they are. But those lava layers are within the layers and then processing the pixelation, which is causing the wavy, watery, splashy effect to occur the way that it is. And then there's the mask that's holding out. You can sort of see what they are, like the individual buttons are done. And I did that in Paint. There's not really any avoiding that. There's no way to like generate just like there's ways to make shapes happen inside just the visualizer, and you can do that from within them without ever leaving the software if you feel like it. But it would take way longer than doing it this way, which is still a lot of work. Basically cut it out of the thing and then make it so that you pick your individual pad up. And then now I have a crap ton of those. There's 17. There's the main guy, which there's just a guy that looks like this that I was going to use as like a grand mask for my hands. You kind of saw in the video that like when I play a pad that like my hands are over, you can still see the thing happen. And if I was trying to be like as good as like a finished product, that would be a big no-no. But that's a lot of doing that I didn't want to do. So that never happened. But the rest of it did, which was that you got all of those pads dumped in here. And these are all just different pictures that are just a black background with the color of the pad. And that isn't super necessary. Like what really, like some of them are fine, but most of the time the alpha key is just going to blend it up because it's just black and not black. It's really, really easy to just be like, it's on, it's off. It's not a big deal. And it only shows up around there, which is important because we just needed that to be there so that when the pixelate happened, it only applies it to that particular thing and not any other piece of the imagery. And now the pixelating thing is a neat deal. So you see how the lava layers are black right now. Like, let's see, which one is this? Pad 13. That's you. All right. So there's the effect. This is going. The resolution of the pixelate is what's causing the primary effect. And the reason why it's doing that and not just what the word pixelate sounds like is because I have this mask business applied to it. Because there it is doing what you would expect actual pixelization to do. But the reason why we have mask output here to be tracking the lava layer. And the lava layer is just this little smoosh of noise that happens that actually we can show. Boop. That's the mask. That's just what it looks like. So that's why whenever that comes out, it is that. There it is. Now, the beautiful thing about the little plugins like these that use mask inputs to govern the change, because what's happening here is that based on light and dark, where light is high and dark is low, the pixelization effect is being applied to the image based on those values. And because the image is quite noisy and emotionable, this is just what it looks like. And if you go low enough, you can kind of see, if we were looking at this without the background, you'd see this like square cubic looking situation because it's still pixelating. But it's pixelating according to a value across every pixel, and that value is changing based on the mask. This is carrier modulator business all day, every day, and it's awesome. And that works by having the lavas. But you need, oh boy, so the controls I'm having here are the alpha. So that means that this control of how resolution it is also just how bright is the layer. So if I change how much it's there, the effect is altered. So that's the thing that's controlling actually just hitting it. And you can see there's like a little fade just to make it. As it turns out, envelope rules on visual stuff applies just the same way as it does to audio stuff for just the same reasons. It seems weird and fake if it's too fast and short. It also seems weird and fake if it's the same thing every time. And you'll note that it's not. And that's happening because I'm just altering the position of just where it is on the table. And that is what the other articulator is inside here is one of these guys with randomness on. And that's just for that effect. That's the equivalent of randomizing a sample start time to make one thing seem like more than one thing. And it has the intended effect. Like it does look different each time. And sometimes it looks kind of the same because it doesn't do random enough, but it works out. So every one of those pads has a lava layer that it turns on and randomizes. And then the process is main image. The webcam image gets put through. It gets a mask that is the specific button for the specific key. And then it gets pixelated according to the input from that individually specifically triggered lava. And that makes it there. And there's 16 of them. That's just a lot of that work. It's exactly as much work as you think it is. And I had to do it a lot because I kept moving the camera. Oh boy. And I did once. So there's positional changeabilities for the masks. And the first couple of times I tried to fix it. I tried to actually move it around until it was in the right position again. And that's just not viable. See, the reason this is happening is because I have my webcam mic. Yeah. I have my webcam here on a mic stand. That's what I was trying to say. And it's not the most, it's also on like a piece of carpet that's near where my chair rolls. So anyway, the next attempt at this will have to mean also putting the camera somewhere that will not ever move ever, and trying my goddamnedest to make sure that stays the goddamn same way. Because a big part of making these seemingly just incredibly tedious tasks like go well is stuff like that. Making sure you have prepared your things accordingly and that you're not just like an inch off phase or something. Again, lots of the audio kind of doohickeys somewhat apply to logic presented here. It's a lot of fun. Now, in the past, you've seen me do some stuff, and you probably heard me lament the issues of what happens when you use too many layers. And this just seems like asking for trouble, right? Well, as it turns out, if you do everything more or less completely linearly, and this basically is like nothing is being affected by anything too far from its source. All of these buffer blenders are picked on to their own specific. They're all on buffer 1 because they're all on their own specific output. And the thing can only go through eight buffers, or 9, I guess. So that's 9 buffers away from wherever it is. I think it could be plus or minus. It might just be plus. But the moral of that story is that usually is the downfall of whatever I'm trying to do. Because, and a bit why I haven't gotten too much farther from this, because I can do cool things like have a layer of this that has some frame blur on it that I use to do an extra effect so that like the effect has a tail because it's got a frame blur on it. Like that kind of thing requires just repatching and rebuilding layers, which on the basic description of that's not that big a deal. But if you do that and then all of a sudden your other layers you have set up unlink themselves 16 times, that becomes a problem. So that's why I haven't really gone that far until I have like the pitch perfect way to basically linearly lay all this out in such a way that it won't break. And I did that here. So the way that I constructed this, because this seems insane, I didn't do just thing, and just linearly like this. I first put down, so you can see I put down 16 lavas because I knew that would happen. And you can also check this out. I have put down the quality to 50%, and I had to do that because the frame rate couldn't keep up. And not only that, but it also wasn't super. So this is resolution essentially, and the resolution of this determines the resolution of this particular image. But I could go even farther than that. It wouldn't even be that bad because ultimately it's just a map of light and dark over time, and the actual effect is the thing causing the density. So it'll look all right regardless. And it's a tremendous boon to frame rate not to have to work at everything at 100%. Some things need to be 100%, but that in this case, not so much. Especially if you have 16 of them. Other times, other things like this image out from layer A is just the one thing coming out 16 times, and it's real nice that it's able to do that, but it doesn't seem to be as big a CPU draw as it is to actually be processing 16x whatever kind of jazz the lava is, which I'm sure is some things. And then this usually is a big deal too if you get too hard on like color correcting stuff, but additive ain't that much of a correction, and I guess yeah. So next thing I'm going to try is set up with a more stable sort of position kind of thing. And then I also I did this masking by doing the manual cutout stuff with paint or whatever, but the kind of super cool, really nice way to do this would be as if I had planned and chose specific color gradients that meant that I could cut them out that way. But I got to balance that with my desire to have something I can easily play because I can see what color it is on the right thing at the right place. It's like, for example, these two blue guys right next to each other are just kicks. They're just two kicks. And it would be really weird if they were different colors. like it's different enough colors that they could be split out and masked that way and not have to work. Because I could just have they do have 16 colors. They're and they're close enough to each other. Like even the light is this camera is distorting it kind of a little bit, but they're far enough from each other. Even if I chose like the red one and this one, that I could do the Luma color keying stuff to separate them. I would just be stuck with just the same, just whatever that is, right? That's, I know now that I'm talking about it out loud, I think it's not going to be as bad as I think it is. I think I'll give that a shot next. I'll just see how bad that is, because I have seen how bad this is. I'll tell you what. But yeah, if you have any questions about this, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And as usual, have a nice day.